So let me begin by saying hello, everyone, and welcome to Ibi Speaks. My name is Ibinabo Enebi, and welcome to another month-long series titled the Jesus Talk series. So we're just right in the middle of the Easter celebration. So I think that this series is impeccably timing. So my special guest had an encounter with Jesus himself. Yes, you heard me. He had an encounter with Jesus Christ, and he will be sharing his experience with us. So today's episode is the second installment of the series, the Jesus Talk series, and the topic for today is, Jesus said, "Who do men say that I am?" And before I begin the conversation proper, I'd like to thank you, my faithful viewers, and those of us joining me today. I just want to say that first and foremost that I am grateful, that I'm appreciative, and I am delighted that you've taken time to join us in the conversation today. I am absolutely delighted. And I'd like to thank all of my subscribers. I want to say that I appreciate you, and I want to say thank you very much. And if you're a first-time viewer, I want to say thank you so much for joining us. And listen, if you haven't subscribed to my YouTube channel, I'd like you to please subscribe, because your subscription encourages me and helps to grow this channel. So the topic for today, like I said, is Jesus. Jesus said, who the men think that I am. And to do justice to this topic is my guest, Johan Koornhof. And he's a renowned public speaker, an author, a corporate relationship specialist, and he's joining us all the way from South Africa. Johan?
Hi, thank you, Ibi.
Oh my
Thanks for having
goodness.
me.
Yeah, I am so delighted that you're here. And you know what? I just love your smile. Your smile has this easy effect on people.
Bless, thank you so much.
Okay. So, Johan, I came across your story on LinkedIn last year. And what captured me about your story was the fact that you said that it was the doctors had no hope. The doctors thought you were going to die. And you said Jesus stepped in. So just this afternoon, I was just sneaking through your LinkedIn profile, and I want to ask you the first question. And the first question, I want to set the tone of our conversation. So I'm going to read something that you wrote. I think you wrote it 3 weeks ago, but again, it clicked. And so I want to read it, and then we're going to start off our conversation with that. Is that okay?
Of course.
So this is what you said. You said, face to face with death. When that day arrives, and it will, though we live each day like it wouldn't, how would you confront it? And you have the hashtag peace, regrets, sorrow, anger. It's a question. For some, we will have the opportunity to confront it and process it and do something about our relationship and life. For others, it will come like a thief in the night, life ending, having no time to do anything about it. And there's something that you said that scared me. And you said just over 5 months ago, mine came like a thief in the night at 3:16 a.m. Johan, what happened?
Yeah, Ibi, so I contracted COVID, and I thought I'll be fine because I'm healthy and I'm fit. So I was the perfect profile that should you get COVID, you're going to be fine. Yet after being at home and struggling for about 8-9 days, I eventually had to go to the hospital, and it took me basically 2 days, and they rushed me to ICU. So I thought I was fine because I didn't know anything about oxygen levels and saturation levels or anything about that. And so I was on high flow oxygen in ICU for a couple of days, and I thought I was fine because I felt okay. And then, it was 16 minutes past 3, in the morning, the fourth night, the third day and the fourth night in ICU, that everything just in the flash of a moment turned south, and I lost consciousness and basically stopped breathing like you and I do. It was just my breathing continued purely on a reflex basis, and that was it for me. And they obviously tried everything to get me back, which they managed to do. And yeah, so that night my life changed from where I thought I'm fine, my wife and my two boys are at home and I'll see them again. That's what I thought, literally just even till 3 o'clock that morning. Yet 16 minutes later, everything changed. And that's how suddenly, even if you're a fit and healthy person, death can knock on your door.
And Johan, you're still here with us. What happened?
Yeah, so medically in that moment, that one picture that I sent you, my lungs went to a place when they did the first CT scan on me, where I had less than 4% functional living lung tissue left in my lungs. My lungs were covered with inflammation and pulmonary fibrosis. Now, I don't know if you are familiar with the term pulmonary fibrosis. Now, that is dead lung tissue. So medically, that cannot be healed. If you just have a little bit of pulmonary fibrosis in your lungs, they give you about 3 years to live. If you are in stage 4 of pulmonary fibrosis, they give you less than 12 months to live. My lungs were way past stage 4. Literally, it was the condition my lungs were in, having less than 4% physical living lung tissue in my lungs, functional lung tissue. I was not supposed to get any oxygen through my lungs into my blood to have my main organs function. But yet somehow enough oxygen came through. So actually in that moment when I lost consciousness, they started pumping 65 liters of oxygen per minute through my lungs, trying to keep me alive. My doctors, since that was the 27th, 28th, 29th of September last year, from that night till about 4 weeks ago, they were waiting every single minute of every day and night for me just to die and stop breathing, because medically speaking, I'm physically not able to breathe. Wow. There should be no oxygen getting into my body to live.
And what do you think is the reason why you're still breathing?
So 4 weeks ago, I went for my first CT scan since having been released from hospital. And I walked into my physician's practice. And as I walked in there, he just sat there crying.
He was crying?
Yeah, he was crying. And I just thought to myself, oh, man, this is it. This must be the bad news coming. And he just looked at me and he said, Johan, I'm witnessing the most beautiful miracle I've seen in my entire life. My pulmonary fibrosis in my lungs, which in the history of this world has never, ever, this has never happened. My lungs are clean. It's clear. The pulmonary fibrosis is gone.
Johan, 1 second. I don't want to cut you short, but can we share the images if we can do screen sharing? Okay. Now that is the lungs.
So your lungs, a healthy lung should be a black color. Now, if you look at my 2 lungs there, my left lung has a black spot there, but that's not actually healthy. That's a air bubble in my lung. That should not be there. So the 2 lungs are the big bubbles, balloons on the side, which now is physically all white there, apart from the one bit which is black, which is an air bubble in my lung. And that actually caused my lung to collapse twice. So I had to fight through that as well in hospital, in ICU. So those lungs being white like that, it's when you see lungs like that, that means that person, you can't, like my physician said, those lungs and life, you can't use that in the same sentence.
So how did you become clean, and what made him cry?
Well, the only way pulmonary fibrosis can disappear is literally an act of God. It's medically impossible. So it's never happened in the history of our world that we live in today.
Can you show me the brand new lungs that you have?
I don't have a large image. Let me just do that for you. So there you can see it there in the middle.
Oh,
so
yeah.
that's the lungs that is now clear. It's clean. Those little white bits that you see there is just the arteries in my lungs. So that's all crystal clear and clean, my lungs now.
Johan, I know the question is obvious. How do you think that you went from the dark, you went from a diseased lung or diseased lungs to these brand new set of lungs?
I know for a fact that is just Almighty Jesus that's caused that to happen. And I didn't expect that he will do that for me, because I had an encounter 16 minutes past 3 in ICU when I lost consciousness and basically stopped breathing. I actually had an encounter with Jesus. And in that encounter, eventually, when that encounter basically came to an end, he told me that I will walk out of the hospital. But at that point, even my entire, up until 4 weeks ago, when that CT scan was taken, I didn't know that was the conditions my lung was in. My physician never told me. They didn't want to share that bad news with me. They just told me what they needed to so I can keep on fighting, which I did, because I thought I'm going to be okay. I didn't know I should not be able to breathe.
Now, you had an encounter with Jesus.
Yes,
now that's very interesting. Listen, Johan, you told me you had an encounter with Jesus, but I'm not a skeptic because I believe in Jesus Christ, but if you're on a deathbed, for example, you're not breathing, would I say that it was the effect of the medication, or that you were hallucinating, or it was a figment of your imagination? Because how did you know that the person that you encountered was Jesus Christ?
Well, Ibi, I'll be able to share the entire encounter with you in a minute or two. But the one thing that I can share with you is when you have an encounter with Jesus Almighty, you'll know. Believe me, you'll know. It's something you'll never forget. And it's something that I don't necessarily wish upon everybody to have that encounter. People are always very quick to say, oh man, I would so love to have an encounter with Jesus, whatever. And I will tell you, believe me, you don't. It's
really?
the darkest places I've been in my entire life. And fortunately for how things turned out, it was the greatest moment in my life as well. But it could have been the worst moment I've ever had for the rest of my life.
Now, I want to read something about Jesus Christ. Okay. But whenever I read it, I have goose flesh on my body, right? And I want us to juxtapose that Jesus to the Jesus that you met. Okay. But I'll read it because I love it, because it's poetic as well. So it says here, he never wrote a book. He never had an office. He never had a family or owned a house. He never traveled 200 miles from the place he was born. He did none of the things one will associate with greatness. He had no credentials but himself. He was only 33 years old when public opinion turned against him. His friends ran away. He was turned over to his enemies and went through the mockery of a trial. He was nailed to a cross between two thieves, While he was dying, his executioners gambled his clothing, the only property he had on earth. When he died, he was laid in a borrowed grave through the pity of a friend. 20 centuries have come and gone. Today, he's the central figure of the human race, the leader of humanity's progress. All the armies that ever marched, all the navies that ever sailed, all the parliaments that ever sat, all the kings that ever reigned put together have not affected the life of humans on earth as much as this one solitary life. So when I read this kind of thing about Jesus, I feel warm and I feel fuzzy and I have this bubbly feeling of love and meek and mild and kind. And you say that the encounter that you had with Jesus Christ was the darkest experience you've had in your life. How so?
So, Ibi, how can I explain this to you? So when I actually was stopped breathing and I was lying there, I knew what was happening with me in that moment on the hospital bed, but yet I was outside as well, looking at myself. But I'm not going to go into detail there, but 16 minutes past 3, when I looked up at the monitor and everything went black, that was it. And the next moment, everything was light again. And I was in a glass box. And in that glass box, I was just drifting off and going and going. And I realized and figured out, this is not how it's supposed to be. And I started to gather that I must be on my way out here. And I did everything that I can to stop it from happening. I was kicking that glass box and hitting it, trying to break it so I could just go back, and I couldn't. And the next moment, as I was fighting there, trying to kick and hit this box, glass box, and break it, I just heard this voice, "Who do you think I am?" And I heard it, but I couldn't care much at that point. I needed to break this box because I need to get back, because my wife and my 2 boys are at home. I can't leave them. They can't have their dad die tonight. It can't happen. And I just kept on trying to fight there. And the next moment, I just heard this voice again. "Who do you think I am?" And this time it just caught my attention. And I just realized, and I said, "I know you, Jesus." And I kept fighting again. And the next minute, he just shouted again. But this time, it wasn't like the volume of a speaker going up of a sound box. It was the power in that voice that just completely knocked me down. The voice just said again, "Who do you think I am?" And I said, "I know you, Jesus." And he said, "No, I'm not." He said, "I'm not Jesus." He said, "I'm Jesus Almighty." And then he said, "But you human beings, and you, Johan, have become so used to me that you talk to me, you treat me just like your buddies there on earth. When it's used to you and when it suits you, that's how you talk to me." And he said, "But even if I were to tell you that I've got the might in my hands to let the sun rise and sunset, I've got the power to tell the waves and the ocean where they can break and where they can't go any further. Even if I were to tell you that, it would not even move you." He said, "Because you've become so used to me." He said, "But Johan, every single breath that you are fighting for right now is a gift, is the power that I have in my hands to either give to you or to take away." And he said, "Do I have your attention now?"
Johan, the idea that I have of Jesus Christ, to be honest, is the loving Father, the one who's so full of love, because most of the preachings that we hear about Jesus is that he is loving, he is kind, he loves us extravagantly, and that he is ready, to forgive us over and over again. Quote, wow.
So we take him for granted. And he is a Jesus of love. and forgiveness. But remember, he is also a God of righteousness. We can't ignore that, but we do. So what happened was, when he had that conversation with me, I was flown on the floor. I couldn't talk. And then after he told me that, he just kept quiet. And as I was there on my knees, I just had this one flash after the next came through my head. And that was all the incidents, all the major incidents in my life where I ignored Jesus, where I denied him, where I chose to do what I wanted to do, even though I knew what he laid on my heart, what I need to go and do. And I ignored him. And in that moment, when I saw those images, those flashes coming past of those moments in my life, I knew this is not going to end well. And I knew, and Jesus made sure that I knew in my heart, I'm not going to heaven. And when those images stopped, he spoke to me again. He said, Johan, if you deny me on earth, I'll deny you before my Father in heaven. And I knew. We think the narrow path that he's talking about, we act and we live as if it's this broad. Doing what we want to do, but using Jesus when it suits us, when it makes us feel comfortable. We need to be careful. So what happened there, and just to continue with the story on it, my encounter, was that he said, Johan, the path to heaven is one where you surrender your entire life to me. You are not in control, I'm in control. But you live as if you are in control. Doing what you want to do. You'll come to me and say, oh, Jesus, please, I'm going to leave this at your feet. And you say, amen, and you stand up and you go and do whatever you want to do still. He said, it's the path of complete surrender, surrendering your life completely to me. And from that place of having surrendered your whole life, your picture of what your life should be like, surrendering it to me. And from that space, from that moment on, to live with an attitude of complete obedience to me. And that's when I said, but Jesus, I'm a human being. I'm going to make mistakes. And he said, Johan, your sins, your mistakes means nothing to me. It does nothing to me. And I'm not talking about the tick boxes of making mistakes in your life. I'm talking about an attitude of obedience to me. It's completely different. So that you know that every single day, everything that you do is coming from a place where you are having and carrying an attitude with you of a desire of wanting to be obedient to Jesus Almighty with everything that you do. Because he's in control and he is the loving Father, wanting the best for you and what is best for you. But you've got to surrender to him and live with an attitude of complete obedience, not doing what you want to do. I'm in control. I've got this. No, you don't. Because then you're denying him.
Johan, I want to ask this because it's very important to me. You know the way in the churches today, we hear a lot of different kinds of preaching. 1,000 steps, we hear sowing seeds, we hear once saved, always saved, about prosperity, about living your best life and all those kind of things.
Well, isn't that interesting comment to make, Ibi, because that makes it all about you. If it's about the 10 steps to my success and my happiness and to my financial success, that's all about me. Where's Jesus in that?
Wow.
That's you trying to be in control. And wherever you are trying to be in control, and he made it so clear to me, he said, Johan, then you're denying me because you're doing what you are, the God of your own life. You don't need me there. You don't want me there. That's you trying to be in control. We can picture that and paint that picture however we want to make ourselves feel better about it. But that's the truth.
So, Johan, based on your experience with what Jesus told you, what would be the right attitude? What will the mindset of surrendering to Jesus be like?
Well, Ibi, isn't that just so simple? Because he had to make things so simple because we are human beings. And in making it that simple for us, it's an attitude of obedience. That's the attitude of, I wake up in the morning and I say, Jesus Almighty, you are in control. I've got this meeting this afternoon. I would so love during that meeting for the client to agree to sign a contract with me. That'll be awesome for me. But it's not my will, your will be done. You are in control. My desire of my heart is just wanting to be obedient to you. So if you want that contract to be signed, let that be. Your will be done. If you don't want me to sign that contract, your will be done. Close the doors. I give it over to you.
That drastic?
Because it's his will to be done, Ibi, not mine. He's in control. I just want to be obedient. And not obedient from a headmaster being, oh, I need to be obedient. No, it's obedience to the one person, to Jesus Almighty, who is Almighty. The question is, do you actually believe that to be true? Because only if you truly believe with your whole heart that he is Almighty and that he is in control, then you'll be happy to surrender every single moment, every decision in your life over to him, because you know he's in control. And who do you want to be in control of your life? I wouldn't want anyone else apart from him to be in control, because he's Almighty. And he loves you.
He loves me, and that's why he wants to be in control of my life. Now, that's just one example of assuming I want to sign a contract and something like that. So assuming, for example, I have a decision that I want to make. I want to go shopping. I want to go out with my friends. Do I have to surrender that as well?
Same thing. I'll, for instance, say, Jesus, this afternoon at 10 o'clock, I've got a coffee with my one best friend. I give that over to you. If you don't want me to have coffee with him this afternoon, close the doors. Let it not happen. But if it is your will for us to have coffee, I give that over to you. Please guide that conversation. Let your will be done for why you want the two of us to have coffee today. Let me speak into his life.
So it's the same thing as when John the Baptist prayed that let me decrease that you would increase.
Increase, yeah.
So in every area of our lives, regardless of what we do, whether we want to watch a movie or whether we want to write a book or whether we are ambitious, whatever thing that we have or whatever we want to do, it has to come from a place of Jesus, is this your will for me? So if we don't do that, then we are walking in disobedience.
Well, Ibi, here's the beauty about attitude. Remember, he even said that only man knows the truth in his heart. So I don't know the truth in your heart. When it comes to the attitude, when I look at your behavior, I can see that. But when it comes to the attitude of your heart, I don't know what the true attitude of your heart is. Only you do, and Jesus does. So I can't judge you on that. I can't tell you. You will know. You will know if you're walking with a true and pure attitude of obedience towards him. Only you will know. And you will either have peace on that or you won't. And I can tell you now, when your day comes, when your 16 minutes past 3 in the morning comes, you want to have that peace in your heart, that you are 100% walking with the true attitude of obedience towards him. And only you will know that you need to, if you want to live, you need to die to yourself.
Because that is what he said. That is what he said in the scriptures.
Exactly.
That's what he said in the scriptures. It says that he who wants to save his life would lose it. And he who loses his life for my sake will find it.
Exactly.
And he also set an example for us on the Garden of Gethsemane when he said,
he asked his father, please take this away from me, knowing that he's going to die. Because he was just a human being on earth and facing death, knowing that's going to, he said, please, Father, take this away from me. But not my will be done, your will be done. Wow. So who do we think we are? That we can just live as if we can do whatever we want to do when it suits us, and everything will be fine because he loves us. It's never written in the entire Bible. That's something we made up, and we here in the churches to make ourselves feel better about our poor attitudes and behavior towards Jesus. And remember, he said he's a jealous God. Remember, Ibi, one of the most powerful things that he also said in scripture, in the Bible is written, he said, guard your heart, because from it comes all life. And when he talks about guard your heart, he talks about your mind, what you allow to come into your ears and your eyes. He said, guard your heart, my child. Be careful of who you listen to and what you listen to and what you're looking at TV. Guard yourself.
Be careful about what you're listening to and what you watch.
Absolutely. The only way that you are able to discern between truth and what other people are saying, I don't care. Remember, the Pharisees were the most studied biblical people. Yet they were the people that Jesus had a go at every single time he had the opportunity to, because of the attitudes of the heart not being righteous and true. So what makes them different to people who call themselves preachers out there? I'm not saying every preacher, yet we need to be careful who we listen to.
Okay, so Johan, our time is getting fast spent, and I want to ask you this question. So you're here, you didn't die after all.
Yeah.
So what happened?
So like I said, I mean, what happened then, Jesus told me, he said, Johan said, now you know how it works. And he said, so I'm going to give you a choice, my son. You're either going to surrender your life to me and live from a place of having an attitude of complete obedience towards me every single day, or you know where you're off to. And he said, but take your time before you make your choice, my son, because I can see the attitude, the true motivation in your heart. I see that. So don't take it lightly. I'll see if you're just going to say yes, you will, in order to get back to your son and your sons and your wife. So I took my time and I made sure. And I made that choice and I told him, I'm all in. And that's when he said, he sent me back. And here I am today.
He sent you back.
Yep.
Wow. So if he hadn't sent you back, you were going straight to the 5th floor in hell.
Well, I wouldn't know what floor, but I certainly would have been there.
But Johan, you know, in course of our conversation, I discovered that you were a Christian before now.
Yes, I was.
You were, and you had an
I thought, and my wife and everybody around me would have thought, if there's someone going to heaven, that's me. But how deceived I was.
And what made you think that, you know, that you were going to heaven in those times before you had that life encounter?
Because I had this idea in my head, if I believe in Jesus, then I'll go to heaven. It's as simple as that. But that's not the truth of what is written. But that's what I received from preaching. And that's not the whole truth. That's part of the truth. That's not the whole truth.
So what is the whole truth?
It's like I said with you, the whole truth is, do you really believe Jesus is who he said he is, and that he can do what he said he will do? That he is almighty. And from that place, surrendering your whole life to him, knowing that he's in control, you are not in control. And living with an attitude of complete obedience towards him. And I can't tell you, living from that place of complete obedience towards him, I now today know from experience what the peace is that he talks about in the Bible, that he says that surpasses all understanding. I've never lived with this freedom and peace in my heart ever before like I do now. Because every day I give my life over to him, not just by saying it, but through 100% pure action and living with a heart of with the attitude of obedience towards him, knowing that he is in control. Doesn't matter what's happening around me, it might not look great around me in that moment, but I know that he is in control. And that's what matters to me. I believe it with my whole heart.
Wow.
Isn't that amazing?
It is amazing.
Yep.
It is absolutely amazing. Wow. So you had the Jesus touch experience, but this wasn't the first time you had an encounter, a supernatural encounter with Jesus Christ.
And this was the first time I literally had an encounter with him. The previous time he saved my life miraculously, but I had no encounter with him. Definitely not.
Yes, so you had a miraculous, he saved your life miraculously. So tell me about that.
So that was now 11 years ago when I had a mountain bike accident, and my entire skull burst out on this side. You can still see marks on my head.
Yeah, can you see the picture? Okay.
But let me see if I can find it for you. There we go.
Oops, that's you.
That's me.
Oh yeah, this is you, but I don't know about the other side.
Yeah, so that is me. So again, after that accident, they medically can't explain how I survived that accident. And my healing after that was a complete miracle as well. So that's when I certainly knew that Jesus was very real and involved in my life. But here's the scary part of it all, Ibi, was that even then, I know Jesus saved my life and miraculously healed me there. But yet, regardless of that, I still didn't live a life as if he is this almighty Jesus, being so real and in control and almighty. And I didn't live that way. And here's the big question. If you were to ask everybody out there, if Jesus were to come to you today and tell you to just give your house away because he's in control, would you do that? I'm not asking you now. I'm just saying, if you were to be honest with you.
If Jesus asks us to give a house away or give a car away, would I do that?
You know, but don't answer now, but sit with that question and try and answer that question honestly to yourself and see how you struggle with the true question if you really believe that he is Jesus and that he is almighty and that he is in control. And
wow,
it'll be interesting to see the answer that you find there. If he tells you that, or if you just tell yourself, oh man, this must be my own thoughts in my head.
Right. So Johan, just one more question, right? Well, I keep saying that, but how do I know? Because somebody could be asking, so how would I know if this is just a thought in my head or if it's just Jesus asking me the question or asking me to do something?
Well, isn't that a great place to be if you start asking those questions? Because then you start asking yourself, if you truly believe with yourself that you are in a place of having a true, honest, real relationship with him.
You know, Johan, I just want to say that ever since I had that conversation with you a week ago, that I would say that you have jolted something inside of me. The conversation have jolted something inside of me. And it's said to me that we have consequences for our actions, that as believers, that we have to live a life of surrender, and that heaven is real.
Oh, yes.
And that hell is real. Because I remember when I was telling you, I was saying something to you, and then you just went straight up ahead and said, do you want to go to heaven?
Yeah.
And a lot of times, unfortunately, and this is not to say that I'm being disrespectful of the big men of God, you know, but there is this thing about how the messages today are no longer focused on, are you going to go to heaven? The messages of today are no longer focused on what would Jesus do. The messages of today are no longer focused on the fact that we're going to give an account of our thoughts, of our words, of our actions, unfortunately. And so when I had that conversation with you, I sat with it, and to me, I felt that this is what I'm looking for.
Yeah.
Because a lot of people are tired of the kind of messages we're hearing.
Yeah.
And there has to be something that Jesus has to be much more than a private jet. Jesus had to be much more than prosperity. I mean, it had to be much more than that. And so any last words?
Oh, Ibi, so for me, I just pray for everybody out there who's listening to this, that they will truly have an experience of the Almighty, just a glimpse of His almightiness, so that their hearts can be touched and moved towards the truth, and to get them living from the place of attitude of a true obedience, because that's a place of peace, of true peace, not the peace that we talk about, but the peace that Jesus talks about in the Bible that surpasses all understanding. The place where if you want to save your marriage, well, get to a place of obedience first, because that's the platform for any good thing to happen. If you want to restore your relationship with your children, get to a place of obedience first with Jesus, because from that place you lay the platform for any good thing to happen. If you want to restore your own life, get to a place of true obedience with Jesus Christ, because that lays the foundation for every good fruit you bear in your life.
Johan, you are stirring something inside of me. I want to put you on the spot, and it's not deliberately, because people will be listening to me.
That's fine.
Recently in Nigeria, it's a topical issue, and a lot of people are talking about it. A singer it was alleged that she died from domestic abuse, that she was beaten by her husband to the degree that she died eventually. And there's this thing going on, and everybody, and all pastors and non-pastors, and everybody is talking about the fact that this lovely lady who married a monster of a man should have left. And now there is this thing going around in social media in Nigeria that you don't have to stay in an abusive relationship, you don't have to stay in an abusive marriage. And yet this lady felt, she's dead now, that, I mean, she didn't want to leave because it was said that the church preached against divorce. And so she died from the hands of her abusive husband.
Can I just give an example there, Ibi, and we can get straight to the chase?
Take over.
I'm divorced. I divorced my first wife. Okay. I'm now married again. I've got two beautiful little boys. Here's my question.
Married? No, you didn't marry?
Yes, I'm married. I'm married again.
Okay.
I've got two beautiful little boys with my current wife, but I divorced my first wife. Okay. So here's my question. If the church told me that it's a sin to get divorced, okay, that Jesus will turn his back on me, just help me out here. How would Jesus save my life miraculously twice after I got divorced? He's given me another wife, given me two beautiful little boys.
What was the grounds of the divorce?
We just didn't get along. We didn't make each other happy. And eventually we just decided, this is not going to work. And we divorced each other. Because
from my understanding of the scriptures, the only legal reason that you have for divorcing somebody, it's on the grounds of marital infidelity. That is when
Ibi, what I can tell you today is that if you divorce, no sin is greater than another sin. We like to make certain sins bigger than other sins. We think if you kill someone, it's worse than someone just stealing. But sin is sin. Okay? So why would divorce be a greater sin than someone killing someone? Or why would divorce be a greater sin than someone stealing? Why would divorce be a greater sin than any other sin? It's not. Jesus forgives sins. The question is, are you going to repent?
Okay.
Are you then going to live a life with the attitude of true obedience towards Him? That's the Jesus of forgiveness. But He asks you, what are you going to do now? Like He told that woman at the well who gave her body to so many men. He told her, I forgive you, but go and sin no more.
So which means that, well, I gave you another wife, but don't go divorcing her to marry another wife again, a third one maybe.
Well, Ibi, I don't know. I'm not Jesus.
If you live an obedient life, if you live a life that is surrendered to Him, obviously then.
But remember, you might get someone who divorces, someone marries again, divorces again, marries again, but never ever lives in a true obedient relationship with Jesus Christ.
Okay.
And that person might even be called themselves a Christian. I know many people like that. Call themselves Christians and they live the way they want to, but they call themselves Christians. They go to church.
So the meat.
I've got a surprise for them. Based on my experience, they're going to get a big surprise one day. A wake-up call that they wouldn't want to get.
A wake-up call that they wouldn't want to get. So
I got that wake-up call, and I didn't do anything to deserve.
You didn't do anything.
No, wow. That was just His grace that gave me another choice.
Fantastic. Johan, I have a sneaky feeling that we would have to have more.
That's fine, Ibi.
We would have to have more conversation. And I just want to say thank you so much for taking your time out from your holiday to be here with us today. I'm absolutely grateful. And I'd like to say a huge thank you to all of my viewers and everyone who's taking the time to be here today. I am highly appreciative of your time. I am grateful and I am happy. And if you haven't subscribed to my YouTube channel, please subscribe. It's Ibinabo Enebi. By subscribing to my YouTube channel, you're liking my channel, and also press the like button also to like this video, and feel free to share this video and follow me on my social media handles: Ibinabo Enebi LinkedIn, Ibinabo Enebi Facebook page, Ibinabo Enebi my Instagram. And Johan, thank you very much.
Of course, Ibi, thanks for having me.
And I'm gonna call you. I'm gonna call you right away. So just hold on, yeah?
Okay.
Okay, so thank you very much. Bye, everybody.